Hi, good morning and welcome to the CCS Fleet Team's webinar on reducing grey fleet and salary sacrifice solutions. My name is Helen Betts and I'm the category lead for vehicle hire solutions and vehicle lease, fleet management and flexible rental solutions. In today's webinar, we're going to explore how your organisation can reduce your usage of grey fleet by using vehicle hire, fleet vehicles, whether leased or purchased, and salary sacrifice solutions. In a minute, I'll be handing over to my colleagues, David Baker, who is the Vehicle Hire Solutions and Flexible Rentals Manager, and Martina Corrin, who is the Vehicle Lease Fleet Management Solutions Manager. And they will discuss both of these areas and invite you to ask any questions at the end of the presentation. For the next 20 minutes or so, we will be looking at what is grey fleet, the reduction of grey fleet and how we can support. What is salary sacrifice, why choose salary sacrifice, and what CCS can do to support you on your journey. And so I hand over to David, who will begin talking about grey fleet. Thanks, David.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you to Helen for the introduction. I'm David Baker, and I'm CCS's Category Manager for Vehicle Hire. I'm going to start by outlining a few key points about grey fleet. Grey fleet is defined as using a personal vehicle for business purposes. Business purposes excludes commuting to your usual workplace. According to a Driving for Better Business review, in 2018, grey fleet accounted for over 14 million vehicles on UK roads, which, to put it in context, is over a third of all vehicles. The BVRLA and Energy Saving Trust revealed in 2016 that 12 billion business miles were driven in grey fleet across public and private sectors. Whilst only 1 billion miles of those were driven in the public sector, this is still an unfathomably huge amount, equivalent to driving around the world 40,000 times, and something which needs to be addressed. The final statistic on this page, that the average grey fleet car is over 8 years old, is at the root of many of the key issues and risks associated with grey fleet. As a general rule of thumb, the older the car, the higher the CO2 emissions. As a result of this, grey fleet vehicles, being up to 8 times older, have a much greater negative effect on air pollution levels than those provided via the workplace, such as rental vehicles, company-provided fleet vehicles, or employee salary sacrifice vehicles. Illustrative of this, the BVRLA recently stated that over 40% of grey fleet cars were not compliant with clean air zones. Cars in the rental market are typically replaced within the first 12 months of registration, with leased vehicles typically contracted on a 3 or 4 year basis. Salary sacrifice schemes, although being a personal lease arrangement for the employee, will operate with a typical 3-year replacement cycle. These replacement cycles support the ability to access lower emission vehicles as they come to market. By switching employees out of grey fleet into either rental, lease or salary sacrifice schemes, organisations have the ability to reduce their carbon footprint associated with travel by between 20 and 30% in one fell swoop. The increasing uptake of ultra-low emission vehicles within salary sacrifice schemes in particular will see these benefits continue to increase. Of course, each organisation has to weigh up environmental costs against financial costs, and often, as shown by the table on this slide, a blended approach of solutions based on length and frequency of journeys will need to be taken. Taking time to review operational needs and travel requirements against the different options available can help reduce cost, improve environmental performance, and increase employee satisfaction and retention. The typical age of grey fleet vehicles will also have an impact on their safety ratings, since they do not benefit from the latest safety improvements. The BVRLA study revealed that when measured using the NCAP ratings, Grey Fleet vehicles on the whole were considerably less safe than both the rental and the salary sacrifice sectors, predominantly due to the average age. 5 stars indicates overall good performance in crash protection and well equipped with robust crash avoidance technology. Rental, salary sacrifice, and lease fleets contained 80% of vehicles with a 5-star rating, whilst only 33% of Grey Fleet vehicles achieved 5-star status. More recently, Enterprise Rent-A-Car conducted a survey of 1,000 UK drivers, 44% of whom used their own cars for business journeys, and the results revealed more specific accident risks. Of those surveyed, between 27 and 35% of drivers did not regularly check their tyre tread depth, tyre pressure, oil levels, or brake lights. Perhaps even more startling was the admission that more than 1 in 4 Grey Fleet drivers admitted they had never opened the bonnet. The survey also revealed that more than half of Grey Fleet drivers, 57%, chose to defer their MOT due to COVID-19. This increases the risk of accidents if employees returning to work after lockdowns continue to use their own vehicles, particularly when you consider that 4 out of 10 cars of 8 to 9 years old fail their MOT. Under health and safety law, employers have the same duty of care obligations when their staff use personal vehicles for business as they do when they are using a vehicle provided by the organisation. However, many employers apply less stringent policies and processes to Grey Fleet vehicles, failing to manage the safety of these vehicles or the safety standards of their drivers. Employers must be able to demonstrate that they are meeting their duty of care obligations, ensuring that vehicles are roadworthy with up-to-date servicing and maintenance schedules, including MOT certificates, where relevant. Insurance documents should also be checked regularly to ensure that policies include business cover, not just commuting. Many organisations with Grey Fleets mistakenly think that an employee's own insurance cover will protect the company from on-the-job accidents, which isn't the case. The 2018 Driving for Better Business report revealed that 21% of Grey Fleet drivers do not have business insurance while driving for work. It is essential that every employee who uses their vehicle for a work journey, regardless of the distance travelled, has cover for business journeys included within their policy. It is also important that driving licence checks are in place for Grey Fleet drivers, as well as for your company vehicle drivers, not only to ensure that the employee has a licence, but also to understand the risk of potential bans due to things such as high number of points already in place. It is worth me pointing out the issue of cause to permit, which under the Road Traffic Act 1988 states that it is an offence for a person to cause or permit another person to drive on a road a motor vehicle of any class unless they have a valid licence in place to authorise that usage. Failure to check driving licences correctly and accurately can lead to prosecutions, as can knowingly permitting someone to drive a vehicle which is not roadworthy. All of the aforementioned should be documented in a clear policy for Grey Fleet usage, covering when use of Grey Fleet is permissible and what steps need to have been taken, together with the evidence to be provided prior to driving. However, many employers do not carry out this due diligence. Producing and checking documents and monitoring employees' compliance is a time-consuming admin burden, which can often fall through the cracks between HR, finance, and operational departments. Failure to effectively manage your duty of care in respect of Grey Fleet vehicle usage is a huge business risk. In the worst-case scenario, an employer can be prosecuted for corporate manslaughter under the 2007 Corporate Manslaughter and Corporate Homicide Act. Although there have not yet been any successful prosecutions that relate to Grey Fleet, this remains a significant risk, with DFT reporting 499 people killed and a further 41,423 injured in accidents in 2017 associated with people whilst driving to work, or driving for work, sorry. The associated reputational damage that can be caused as a result of corporate manslaughter, or indeed any serious motor accident involving grey fleet, where clear and effective policies are not in place and being acted upon, is, as I'm sure you agree, something that we all want to avoid. With the lack of visibility and control of grey fleet, it will always carry greater risks. A clear policy of requirements, together with when it is appropriate to use grey fleet, is of key importance. So, what solutions can you use to reduce grey fleet? Vehicle hire is a good place to start. All hire cars are under 2 years old, which gives peace of mind that they are safe, modern, and not heavy pollutants. The number of EVs and hybrids amongst hire companies' fleets are growing too, which gives the opportunity to try before you buy. And, for central government, if a hire is longer than 5 days, this counts towards your 2022 target of 25% of your car fleet to be electric. As organisations are still considering what their longer term objectives look like, their future vehicle requirements may be unclear. Fleet managers will, now more than ever, need to be able to manage these uncertainties while ensuring fit-for-purpose vehicles are readily available to meet operational demands. In order to make smart decisions, organisations need to first gain insight from available data to understand the fine detail of their business travel profile. Vehicle hire companies all provide detailed management information for their hire journeys to help with this. While there is a drive to reduce grey fleet, it won't be eradicated overnight, and indeed there will always be a requirement for some grey fleet usage. A blended approach to a fleet profile will be required to reduce grey fleet, one that combines a mixture of long-term committed vehicles, whether purchased or leased, complemented with the ability to meet peaks in demand with flexible rental, daily rental, and car club schemes. Flexibility is key, with the most effective businesses using data analysis to support decision-making and consider a full range of factors to maximize optimum cost-effectiveness, safety, and productivity. Flexible rental comprises rental periods from typically 28 days plus, bridging the gap between vehicles taken onto the fleet for longer periods of time and those spot hired for short periods. It supports fleets in responding to peaks and troughs in demand for output. These gaps can sometimes be met by employees using their own vehicles, but are much better provided for via a flexible rental solution. Whilst hire companies will ask you for your intended hire duration, there are no penalties for early return post 28 days, meaning that you can react to circumstances quickly and without cost in the uncertain times we face. For example, in the event of your organisation's services dramatically reducing due to a lockdown scenario, you could hand back your flexi rental cars penalty-free. Leased vehicles will result in lower day rates than rental vehicles due to the longer committed durations. However, longer-term flexible rentals deliver better value than daily rented vehicles and are the perfect compromise for fleet managers with an identified requirement but not wanting to commit longer term with a fixed term lease or purchase solution. Car share is another good example of flexibility in the vehicle hire market. I've found that it's best to explain what car share schemes, sometimes known as car clubs, are not alongside what they are. They are not arrangements between employees to share their commuting transport and therefore their cost to commute, as sensible and laudable as that is from an environmental and cost-saving perspective. Car share is a dynamic way to access vehicles in direct response to immediate demand, covering hires from just a few hours to several weeks, giving flexibility to employees to select a cost-effective, convenient solution to business travel. They have the potential to be cheaper for the organisation because they can be rented for a shorter period than a full day, which means they can be used by more than one employee each day. Furthermore, they avoid delivery and collection charges, which can be up to 30% of total daily rental cost, and carry an additional layer of carbon footprint. Rental companies' car share divisions tend to have greater proportions of electric vehicles, as most journeys are local and ideal for EV battery ranges, so they're environmentally friendly all round. Whilst the coronavirus pandemic has put the brakes on car share's growth in the public sector work environment, demand has often remained steady for the general public in urban areas, particularly for NHS staff, showing that appetite for this service remains. Operators have introduced more stringent and frequent cleaning processes to keep the service running. As widespread vaccination allows for return to workplaces, CCS expects car share to continue on its pre-COVID growth trajectory. There are 4 types of car share to choose from. Firstly, virtual vehicles, which are available through a supplier's established public network and are often booked at short notice for short trips in an urban environment. Hire is usually for very short periods, such as 1 to 2 hours. Secondly, dedicated pool vehicles, which are rented for an extended period of many months and for exclusive use by a business, but, on agreement, potentially opened up to other organisations in the local vicinity. These are based at the employer's location. Thirdly, mixed-use pool vehicles, which are restricted for use by the hiring organisation only for set times, e.g. within business hours. Outside of this set time, the vehicles are available to the general public. They can be cheaper than dedicated pool vehicles because the supplier can spread its costs against a higher number of bookings. And finally, own fleet technology, which is integrating car share booking software into an organisation's own fleet, allowing vehicles to be accessed through an online booking system. Thank you for listening. Now I'm going to hand over to Martina Corrin to talk about salary sacrifice.
Thank you, David. Having seen how vehicle hire can support with moving away from grey fleet, let's take a look at how a vehicle salary sacrifice scheme can support your organisation in this area. Salary sacrifice is the topic of the moment. Our fleet customers, suppliers and fleet publications are all talking about vehicle salary sacrifice and the benefits it provides for both employees and employer. These include mitigating some of the risks associated with grey fleet. Firstly, let's take a look at what salary sacrifice means. Salary sacrifice covers a range of employee benefits, and simply put, employees who join a salary sacrifice scheme give up part of their salary, and in return, their employer gives them a non-cash benefit, for example, childcare vouchers. Most non-cash benefits are taxable, and the tax paid on non-cash benefits is called benefit in kind tax, or BIC. This rate of tax is often more beneficial than the amount of tax that would be paid on the portion of the salary that has been sacrificed. Once they join a salary sacrifice scheme, an employee's overall pay is lower, which means they pay less tax and national insurance. This part of our webinar focuses on vehicle salary sacrifice, so let's take a look at that in more detail. When an organisation sets up a vehicle salary sacrifice scheme, employees who choose to join it acquire a brand new leased vehicle. The lease includes fully comprehensive insurance, vehicle servicing and maintenance, road fund licence and breakdown cover. The cost of the lease is deducted from the employee's salary before it's paid. Most organisations appoint an independent fleet manager or a sole supply vehicle lease funder to implement and manage a scheme on their behalf, and can specify the level of support and service they require from their chosen scheme provider. An organisation can specify which vehicles are included in the salary sacrifice scheme. for example, only ultra-low emissions vehicles, or ULEVs as they're called. This is an important area to explore, as realising the full benefit of a scheme depends upon careful vehicle selection. A salary sacrifice scheme provider can support with marketing a scheme and providing guidance around vehicle choices. Most will provide an online portal where employees can browse the range of vehicles included in the scheme. Via the portal, scheme members can run lease quotations and see exactly how much will be deducted from their salary. They can also see a full breakdown of how their salary deduction is calculated. In the case of public sector vehicle salary sacrifice schemes, vehicles are leased to the organisation and the individual driver details are shared with the lease provider. This enables the lease provider to issue the relevant insurance documents and to reallocate charges for speeding, for parking penalties, and for any other charges incurred by the driver, should that be necessary. As the leases are held by the customer organisation rather than by individual drivers, any risk associated with this type of scheme sits with the organisation. Scheme providers will support with mitigating risk in the event of an employee leaving, taking maternity leave, or being on long-term sick leave. This is an important area to explore in detail when selecting a scheme provider. Usually on a monthly basis, the scheme provider will issue the organisation's payroll provider with a file detailing the deductions to be made from each scheme member prior to their salary being paid into their bank account. Why would an employer consider implementing a salary sacrifice scheme for their organisation? There are benefits for both employers and employees. Let's take a look at the benefits to an employer first. A scheme can form part of a company's benefits package. Implementing a scheme makes your organisation an attractive proposition when recruiting new members of staff. It's also a valuable tool for staff retention and motivation. Employees who have previously been ineligible for a company car are able to join a salary sacrifice scheme, and organisations that have implemented a scheme have seen significant improvements in employee engagement scores. A key benefit for employers are the savings generated by implementing a scheme. Because some of the employees' salary shifts from cash, on which pay-as-you-earn tax and national insurance contributions are due, to non-cash benefits, savings arise in the reduced national insurance and corporation tax on the earnings sacrificed. The March 2020 budget and the subsequent tax changes that were introduced in April 2020 made electric vehicles extremely attractive for both employers and employees, especially when they are leased through a salary sacrifice scheme. Encouraging the uptake of ultra-low emission vehicles improves an organisation's green credentials, and when these vehicles are used for business purposes, can support compliance with environmental policy requirements and emissions targets. ULEVs will support your organisation to meet its carbon net zero target whilst continuing to deliver operational requirements. Deciding to introduce a vehicle salary sacrifice scheme doesn't have to involve a heavy administrative burden for your organisation. The right supplier can manage the majority of administrative tasks on your behalf and can also provide support to assist you in understanding the tax implications of the arrangement. A vehicle salary sacrifice scheme needn't incur additional costs for your organisation. Suppliers will be able to advise on delivering a cost-neutral model. Let's move on and look at how a vehicle salary sacrifice scheme can support with de-risking the use of grey fleet. As David has shown us earlier, and as I'm sure you're all aware, employers have the same duty of care obligations when their staff use personal vehicles for business as they do when they're using a vehicle provided by the organisation. So how can vehicle salary sacrifice help in this area? If your employees are using their salary sacrifice vehicle for business purposes, you have the assurance that they're driving a new vehicle. A new vehicle will benefit from the latest safety features and will emit lower levels of CO2. As comprehensive insurance is included with salary sacrifice vehicles, you have the added assurance that the vehicle is adequately insured. Servicing and maintenance is included with the vehicle lease, so you can be confident that the vehicles are well maintained. As breakdown cover is also included with the lease, your employees will be covered should this be required. These elements of a salary sacrifice scheme will support an organisation with keeping their employees safe whilst they're on the road. For an employee, a vehicle salary sacrifice scheme makes a new vehicle accessible. It's the most cost-effective way of accessing an electric vehicle. In addition to reduced tax and national insurance contributions, choosing an electric vehicle attracts the lowest rate of benefit-in-kind taxation. For 2021, this was 0%. For 21-22, it will be 1%, and for 22-23, it will be 2%. For other ultra-low emission vehicles, the rate of BIC tax depends upon CO2 emissions and the range that the vehicle can travel solely on its battery. For diesel vehicles and those with a high level of emissions, a salary sacrifice scheme is not going to deliver these benefits, so careful vehicle choice is key. There are no credit checks or deposit payments required. Costs, including insurance, service and maintenance, road fund licence and breakdown recovery, are included in the lease and fixed for the vehicle lease term, providing cost certainty which helps with personal budgeting. For ultra-low emission vehicles, lease providers can also provide home charging points for employees. Vehicles can be used for both business and personal use, and some providers will include additional drivers on the vehicle insurance. The only restriction for employees is that their salary sacrifice arrangement must not reduce their cash earnings below the national minimum wage rates. Scheme providers can support with managing this requirement. The fleet team at CCS have many years fleet and procurement experience and are on hand to provide you with further guidance and support across all your fleet needs if required. Our frameworks support the diverse needs of the public sector fleets, and our framework suppliers are more than happy to engage with you prior to any formal procurement activity. They will share information, offer guidance, and answer any questions you may have. They are the experts, and they're here to help you. The key frameworks that cover the areas we have discussed today are RM 6096, which is the Vehicle Lease and Fleet Management Framework. This gives you access to both leased vehicles, with or without fleet management solutions, and salary sacrifice schemes. Our salary sacrifice suppliers all have vast experience of successfully implementing and managing schemes on behalf of the public sector. RM 6013 is the Vehicle Hire Framework. This gives you access to vehicle hire and car club solutions. For further information, please feel free to contact us. We look forward to hearing from you.
Any questions?